Hi there, welcome back to my channel. My name is Vero, and in today's video I'll be setting up my bullet journal for the month of December. I'll be showing you my cover page, my monthly overview, my finance page, my gratitude log, and my first weekly spread of December. As you can see from my pencil sketches, this month's theme is Stranger Things, and this is one of my all-time favorite shows. If you're unfamiliar with the show, it's based in Hawkins, Indiana, and is the story of a missing Will Byers and how his friends and family attempt to find him and discover a series of strange events linked to his disappearance. They use the characters from the game Dungeons & Dragons to illustrate the real-life things happening to them. Now, if you haven't seen this show, I'm letting you know that there'll be some light spoilers in my video as I talk about all 3 released seasons, so just be warned. I absolutely love this show because it's a refreshing show where the main point of it is not to showcase quote-unquote attractive people drinking, taking drugs, and having sex all the time, with no real story plot. It's crazy that the first season came out in 2016 though, and we're still waiting for season 4. But anyway, back to my painting. The cover page is a representation of the mind flare in the clouds and the kids on their bikes looking towards it. It is a direct copy of this promotional poster they had for season 2. Because the poster is portrait-sized and my journal is landscape-sized, I had to adjust some things so that it would fit properly onto my page. I decided to place December 2021 in the Stranger Things font at the center. That way you would be able to see both the kids and the mind flare. If you've watched my November plan with me, you'll know that I find painting clouds to be quite difficult. But after watching a few YouTube videos, I think I sort of began to understand how clouds can be painted. To start off though, I painted out the bits of the mind flare that you can see on the poster. I only painted the base color, and I'm going to go in with the highlights and shadows as I start painting in the clouds. The clouds are red, and so not at all like the nice white fluffy clouds you normally see, so instead of painting a neutral base color background, I started filling it in directly with the shadows of my clouds. But just before that, I did paint a few corners of blackish blue to show that it is nighttime. As I painted out the clouds, I made sure to properly highlight and shadow where I could bring out certain aspects of the painting. And after a lot of retouches, I was able to add in the lightning strikes. To illustrate the sky going backwards, I first painted out the shadows of the sky, and as I painted further down the page, I made my brush strokes thinner and thinner to illustrate the perspective of the sky. And I think I managed to do that rather successfully, if I do say so myself. Then on the left page, I painted the sky a red to yellow tint, and on the right, a blue to purple tint. To mask the messy ends of the sky and to stick to the original poster, I painted the trees in the background, which was definitely one of the easier things I had to paint out this month. I used a small pointed-ended brush to give the illusion of the trees in the background, and then ended it where the grass would begin. Or end, depending on the way you look at things. For the grass, I painted on a green base color and then went in with a rounded brush and stippled on the darker shadows to really emphasize the grassy effect. I'll be honest, this wasn't looking the best and I got bored of doing it really fast, but the idea remains the same: smaller stippling towards the upper part of the painting and larger stippling towards the bottom part of the painting, all in the goal of having perspective. The next step was either to paint the boys or to paint the road. In hindsight, I should have left more space when painting the road to help me paint the boys, because I covered up some of the pencil markings when I was painting the road, which meant that I got some of the perspective wrong while painting them afterwards. But lesson learned. While painting out the road, I decided I would add the details of the fence, the welcome to Hawkins sign, and the electric post to get the easier things out of the way. I also added the shadows to those details to show where the light is coming from and to give this painting more of a realistic effect. At this point, I was really happy because the things were really starting to come together. But now the hard part was about to begin, painting the boys and their bicycles. And let me tell you, I spent 1 whole hour painting the little boys because the detailing needed to be just right, and it was hard. When I first started painting the boys, instead of painting them each individually, I painted by colour. And the first colour was brown for their hair, and while the hues of brown change, this only means adding some white or black or yellow to my paint mixture to get the desired hair colour. I realised after doing the hair that it might be easier to first lay down a white base coat so that I could see my pencil markings a bit more clearly, so that's what I did. And from left to right we have Lucas, Dustin, Mike and Will, and I hope this sort of translates on my page. Let me know down in the comments. When painting things out, I used my reference photo to add in the highlights and shadows and details. With the colours, the first step was to go in with the base colour, which I did for each character. I went from left to right using the same colours if they repeated themselves for their clothes. The most prominent colours were navy blue, maroon and beige. After laying down the base colours, I then went in with the most evident details. So for example, I had the white stripes on Lucas's jumper, the different colours on Mike's backpack, and the red stripes on his jumper. The last step for these boys were the highlights and shadows, and as you saw me paint the shadows already, you'll know that the light is coming from the left, so the lighter side is on the left and the darker side is on the right. After finishing the minute details, I was finally satisfied, but something seemed off, and while my video will cut straight to it, it took me a good 5 minutes to realize what was wrong. Can you guess, by the way? And whilst you're thinking about it, let's just have a quick time lapse of me painting the rest of the boys. If you guessed that I forgot to paint the shadows of the boys, then you'd be correct. Painting their shadows was the easiest part of the process, and it required only a very watered down black paint that starts from any points touching the ground and then painted in the same direction as all the other shadows. While I thought the hard part was over, I realized that the font for December was the next step, and this was going to be really annoying. I wanted the font to look like it was glowing, just like you see on the real Stranger Things logo or font. So first I painted the letters red, and then I went in with a thinner paintbrush to draw a thin white line in the center of each of the red lines, forming the letters. Whew, that was complicated. This was hard because the red lines were already super thin, but the glowy effect is not achieved solely from the lettering, so I also needed to take into consideration the background color and reflex. So I needed to paint my background black. And I know what you might be thinking, well, why didn't you just take black paper and do it there? Well, I didn't think of that when I first started planning out everything, so it was already on the white paper and I wasn't going to retrace my letters a second time. Anyway, sadly, after painting the big white spaces with paint, I realized that I could just use one of my Archer and Olive acrylograph pens to go faster. And while it was great, it was a short-lived victory, which is why I said sadly earlier. You see, when doing a glow-in-the-dark effect with paint, you need your background to be able to have pencil colored over the top. And the Archer and Olive acrylographs do not let me use pencil over the top of them. So when I grabbed my red pencil to add more glow effect, it did not hold up. This was very disappointing, but lesson learned as usual. So next time, I just need to think a little bit further ahead and do it on black paper instead, because that would have saved me so much time. Anyway, as you can see, we're getting very close to the end of my cover page, and so here is the final look, and this is my favorite painting of all time in any of my bullet journals ever, and so I'm very happy with it. For my monthly log, I decided I wanted to recreate this scene from Stranger Things, where everyone thinks Joyce is going crazy because she buys a ton of Christmas lights and hangs them all over her house, when in actual fact she isn't going crazy, she's just communicating with Will through the letters on the wall. And if you haven't watched Stranger Things, I'm sorry if that doesn't make any sense at all, because it does sound weird out of context. While I was originally super excited to do this page because Christmas lights inspired my whole Stranger Things theme and I wanted something Christmassy and season 1 is centered around Christmas, this page was definitely a letdown because I was running out of time and needed to pack, so instead of recreating the whole living room on the page with the wallpaper and the shadows and the lights, I just decided to do the lights, which it turned out okay, but I think I definitely could have done a better job. Anyway, maybe when I have time, I can go back and redo this page and actually paint the background properly. So stay tuned maybe later this month, but definitely no promises. To start this page, I drew out my calendar grid and traced out black hanging lines to represent the light fixtures and draped them across the top of the page. I added the letters of the alphabet and the colors of the lamps. I wanted to add the glow effect, but because my background isn't dark, it wouldn't translate well, so I just added a blob of white in the middle of each light bulb to simulate the glow. It's a fun idea for a page, but it's really my least favorite one, so let's just move right on next to my next spread, which is my finance tracker. If you've been watching my videos for a while now, you'll know that I usually also integrate a habit tracker. But for the last 2 months, I've been kind of forgetting about them, so I wanted to try a new thing, where at the beginning of the week, I choose what habits to track and track them through that week and that week only. I can choose to retrack them the next week or let them go. My hope is that short-term tracking makes it easier for me to track my habits, but I have no idea if it'll work or not, so I guess we'll find out. Anyway, back to my finance tracker. I really like this one because it's a representation of season 3 of Stranger Things, with the Starcourt Mall and the Mind Flayer, I want to say, correct me if I'm wrong. And just like in November, I've minimalized this spread by excluding my categories and just leaving space for expenses. I like this idea because I've been spending a bit more, so definitely need more space to write things out. I really struggled with the font of the Starcourt Mall. The color palette was off, and again, I was running out of time, so I just did my best. I am happy with how the monster turned out though, because he at least looks legit. With the highlights and shadows, you can tell what it is, or at least I think you can tell what it is. And if in doubt, I think my added details of the fireworks really brings this piece together. My next spread is my one-line-a-day log and my gratitude log, and I decided to go for the image of the Mind Flayer peeking through the bridge between the upside down and the real world. The wall is black with specks of dust coming through, and then you can see the limbs trying to break through the hole. You can see the orange light coming through, reflecting on the limbs, creating the lights and the shadows, and you can see the rough shadow of the monster in the orange light. The crack in the wall is then covered with these ropey things that can only be described, in my opinion, as string trees when it's being pulled apart, and this is definitely one of my favorite illustrations this month. My final spread for you today is my first weekly spread for December. Now, first I did forget that I was supposed to be doing my habit trackers different, so I didn't leave space for them in my weekly spreads, but I think in my next weekly spreads, you'll see those in maybe 1 or 2 weeks. I did try and leave adequate space. My painting for this week takes up about 2/3 of the left page and is a copy of the kids with a red and black background like this photo. I excluded Erica, sorry, don't hate me, because she's going to be pictured in my next weekly spread along with the Scoops Troop. For the first time in a long time, I've also decided to add in a clip of me drawing out my characters that I'm going to paint. I very rarely do this because it takes a lot of time to sketch things out and I never find it that interesting, but people have been asking for me to show the pencils or the before painting sections, so I'm trying to do that now. And I hope you enjoy it, and let me know if you have any questions about me about tracing things out before painting them, I guess. Learning from my mistake in the cover page, I decided to paint the kids first this time and the background last. This was a great idea because I was able to actually see all of my pencil markings. On my cover page, I decided to paint by color, but this time I went by person. This is because they were all overlapping on each other, and so for perspective's sake, I started with the people further away. Character 1 is Max, whose actor is Sadie Sink, and I am such a huge fan of hers. She's definitely one of my favorite characters on the show. Sadie is also in Taylor Swift's 10-minute short movie of her song All Too Well with Dylan O'Brien, and can I just say that I am obsessed with a capital O. Next to her is Mike, and sadly his hair is a bit weird, so I don't know if you can really tell that it's him, but based off of the others, I hope you can tell. I really loved getting the small details down for each character, especially the highlights, because it really brings the painting to life. Next to Mike is Dustin, and Dustin is by far my favorite character of all the children on the show. The actor is phenomenal, and his character is just so fun and lighthearted, making the show that much more entertaining. After Dustin, I painted Will next, and I love Will too. I feel like he gets forgotten easily, and in season 3 he was kind of left to the side whilst everyone else was having their own plans, and he just wanted to play Dungeons and Dragons and everyone else didn't want to, and it just made me feel so sad for him. But anyway, my perspective is a bit off with Will, but I'm not the best at painting people, let alone people standing sideways, and I'm sure that with more practice and time I will get better. Lucas is the next character, and I really loved Lucas in the first season, but after that he seemed to get way too obsessed with Max and doesn't seem to have any other storyline except for being in love with her. Yeah, he does help with the action in the series, but I feel like he could be given way more things to do during the season. So hopefully in season 4 they give him way more things to do. Pretty please! Finally, the star of the show is Eleven, and while she is the most powerful and objectively one of the best characters, she's sadly my least favorite character from Stranger Things. I have no idea why she's my least favorite. I know she's great, but she's just not my favorite. Anyway, those are the 6 main kids drawn out, and I was super happy with how it all turned out. By painting the background a red to black, I think it made the painting really pop, so I really love how this all turned out. To finish off this first weekly spread, I also included the week number at the top of the painting in the same font as the Stranger Things font, and I traced out all of my daily boxes for the entire week, and I tried to include the same font or to use the same font for each of the letters as well. And this is the last spread that I'll be showing you today, so let's move on to my final flip through. I don't think I can express just how in love I am with my theme this month. Stranger Things is by far one of my favorite TV shows of all time, and so to be able to recreate spreads from this show has been so much fun. I cannot wait for you to see the rest of my spreads for this month. I'm super excited to be painting again, and these elaborate paintings are definitely out of my comfort zone, so I'm super excited to be doing this month. And I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you in another video. Bye!